International, the National Autistic Society, Their World and Ambitious About Autism. In 2004, she was the London Savoy Hotel's writer-in-residence, where a cocktail named after her can still be ordered. Kathy lives in London with her 2 children. She cites her career highlights as once teaching Stephen Fry a word, Salman Rushdie the limbo, and scripting Julian Assange a cameo in The Simpsons' 500th episode. Kathy's latest publication, Till Death or a Little Light Maiming, Do Us Part, is her 19th novel, which takes us on a global whirlwind ride with 2 very different, very determined female characters in search of justice, with a side order of hilarity and a chaser of revenge. It is with great pleasure, on behalf of Casey Cardinia Libraries, to introduce to you Kathy Lette.
Thanks for coming. How lovely to see you all. Oh, and a couple of men too. Wow. I hope you guys know you'll be ovulating by the end of the evening. And I don't know whether anyone told you, we always have we bring one male up on stage later, and we have a kind of sacrifice, we strip you naked, cover you with cream, and we lick it slowly off, don't we, girls? So just, yes, get one of you volunteer later, that'll be very thankful, very nice, thank you very much.
I'll look forward to that, Kathy.
Yeah.
So, welcome to Bunjil Place, Kathy, or as the staff here affectionately call it, Bunj. I noted that you've cited your career highlights in your new bio. It must be very difficult to pinpoint only a few career highlights.
I'm quite old.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've had such a great time of it, and I think I've chosen a few pics from your gallery on your website to illustrate what an amazing, there's plenty more highlights to come, I'm sure. So I've got a picture that I want you to explain, and hopefully I can do this. Ta-da! Okay, here we go. Can you please tell us a little bit about this meeting? Now, this is a highlight for sure.
Can you guys see that screen over there? Can you see it? Can I flick it round?
You can move
Well,
it around.
basically, when I first moved to England, are there any English people here? Hello. Well, the upper class, as you know, they don't speak English, they speak euphemism. So you need those little United Nations headphones to decode them. So when they used to say to me, "Oh, you're Australian, so refreshing," you see, you know that I thought they really liked me when that really means rack off, you loudmouth colonial nymphomaniac. And I'd be like, how do they call me loudmouth? Please, none of my standards. But anyway, the Queen was, when she was doing her last trip, her last overseas trip, they came to Australia. Do you remember that when Philip was alive? So she had all the Aussies down to Buck House for a bit of a barbie to get her ear into the lingo, I think. And I was working that day and I was writing that and I suddenly thought, oh cripes, I'm going to the palace. So I thought, what'll I wear? I happened to have this little suit with corgis on it, with tiaras with diamantes sewn in, which I had got my girlfriend to make for me when I was doing some reporting for the one of the royal weddings. So I whacked the suit on, drove down to the palace, was drying my hair out the car window, put the mask on, ran up the stairs, and the Queen was there, and every famous Aussie was there. Hugh Jackman was there, Kylie was there, and Elle Macpherson was there. But she was pretty bored, like she was meeting 200 Aussies. Her face was in a rictus of boredom. So I stood in front of her in this little dress and said, I hope you like this suit. I wore it just for you, although I'm slightly worried that one of your corgis might mate with my leg. And she went, oh! Philip, do come and have a look. But look at this guy. I don't know if you can see this one. I mean, that one's about to put me back in the tower. So, one thing I've learned about I did meet a lot of snobby people when I first went there. You know who I mean. Those people who've been at Oxford for so long, they've got ivy growing up the backs of their legs. But I just didn't care what they thought about me. And in the end, they finally sort of begrudgingly come to accept me. So yeah, it was a good lesson. Just always be yourself, girls. Always be yourself.
Yeah, totally agree with that. I think I do have another one with the full suit, and because you only get to see a little bit of it, so I think we need to see the rest of it. You look so proud there, Kathy. We'll leave that up there for a little while.
As I said, not many times I get to wear it.
So, I would like to chat about Beauty Blues. It's been just over 40 years since the publication of that particular novel, your first novel.
But how can that be when I'm only like 35?
We're not going to talk about how old you were when you wrote the novel.
Okay.
I saw the film the first time at the age of 14 and it absolutely terrified me. Absolutely terrified me because I thought, is that what's ahead of me? Guys really like that? Were they really like that?
Are there any surfy girls here? Anyone who grew up as a surfy girl? Yeah? Okay. Well, the guys we grew up with disproved the theory of evolution. They were evolving into apes. And they were so sexist. I don't know what they were like down here. Were you down at like Mornington Peninsula and that sort? Is that where the surfing? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Keep saying girl.
Well, in Sydney, this is how sexist they were. They used to get us to cut their names out in paper and sticky tape them to our stomachs and then sunbathe so we get a tan tattoo in the shape of their names. So if ever I get cancer, I'll have a melanoma called Bruce. I'll have to have like a brucectomy to get rid of it. And they were also the sort of guys who thought sex drive meant doing it in the car. How many women here lost their virginity in the car? Come on, I know you might. Yeah. Although I think I worked out why the boys wanted to have sex in the panel van. You know that sign on the rear vision mirror that says, objects in this mirror may appear larger than they are? It all makes sense. And they were good-looking guys, weren't they? But they kept fit by doing step aerobics off their own egos. You know, they had love lights on their mirror. Put it this way: when Bruce came, he called out his own name. Need I say more? But I did get my revenge by writing that book, Beauty Blues, and I really wrote it for my other girlfriends to give them some objectivity to what was happening to them. Because at that age, you don't know; you think that's normal. And Jermaine Greer was rhyming slang for beer. You know, we didn't know anything about feminism. So we were treated just like a life support system to a pair of breasts. So I wrote Beauty Blues for my girlfriends to say, you are more than that. But of course I had no idea I was going to go from non-entity to overnight notoriety. It was quite a roller coaster ride.
So yeah, it obviously made a huge impact on your life and just blew you into the stratosphere, I guess.
Yeah. And of course the generation gap then was Grand Canyon-esque, wasn't it? I think now there's not many things our kids would do that we haven't probably done. But then parents had no idea. Like dads had no idea why their garden hoses were getting short. Because we were cutting them off for bombs. So yeah.
How did your parents deal with the whole novel and the fact that maybe you might have pulled the wool over their eyes a little bit when they read it?
Well, I can remember saying to my mum when I was about 16 or 16 and a half, I said, Mum, I'm writing a book, do you want me to do it under a pseudonym? And I thought up a great pseudonym, Pseudonym. Fabulous! Right? And she's like, she tells me now, that she was like, she said, no, and she said to Dad, as if she'll never get a book published, you know. And she really regretted it. Because she was a headmistress at the time, and she's only told me recently about how much hate mail she got, and she used to get the equivalent of trolls on Twitter. There was the anonymous phone call, and they'd be up saying, "How could you call yourself a teacher when you've raised a slut like that?" You know, but she didn't tell me at the time, which was really lovely of her, because that would have really upset me. But yeah, so it was a different time. But I'm very proud of that little book. It's still punches way above its weight. You know, it's like straight Vegemite with no bread or butter. Very astringent.
I watched it again last night, just the night before. I thought, I'm just going to watch it. It's been since I was 13, 14. But I love the fact that it's the inspiration at the end where the girls just go, we're going to get a surfboard. You must have inspired many, many girls to go out and buy a surfboard.
And that was autobiographical too, because you know, we weren't allowed to surf. We had to fetch the Chico roll, mind the towel, massage the male ego, and we had these teeny weeny bikinis, and we'd lie on the beach with them. You'd be so anxious, glancing down in case a stray hair had escaped. It gave bad hair day a whole new meaning. But when they were doing the TV series recently, it was very good. I don't know if any of you saw it. They let me work on it and put in some, tweak the dialogue and things. We gave it some verisimilitude. But I'm so proud I brought back these expressions into the Australian vernacular. Rack off, you fish-faced mole. And go get me a Chico roll. And don't take a bite out of it or you're dropped. When I'm in London walking around, often if Aussie kids see me, they'll call that out to me across Piccadilly Circus. I think I'm so proud. My contribution to the English vernacular.
I think with the surfing thing in Sydney, I could probably liken it to the footy down here. Because I remember guys going, girls don't play footy, and look at them now. Right. They're up there. Yeah. So yeah.
I did go out with a footballer once, but I wouldn't recommend it because they treat you just like a football. You know, they play footsie, make a pass, and then drop you as soon as they've scored.
You have definitely championed women in your writing. So where do you draw your inspiration for such strong female characters?
Well, my motto in life is that your women friends are your human wonder bras. Uplifting, supportive, and making each other look bigger and better, don't you think? Who's here with their human wonder bra tonight? Most of you, right? Wouldn't you be flat without your female friends? And in all of my novels, from Beauty Blues on, I always champion women because it's still a man's world. I mean, 100 years since Emily Pankhurst tied herself to the railings, we still don't have equal pay. Plus we're getting concussion hitting our head on the glass ceiling and we're supposed to clean it while we're up there. So I think any woman who calls herself a post-feminist has kept her wonder bra and burnt her brains because we've still got a long way to go. But we don't whinge about it, do we girls? No? Another one of my mottos is, laugh and the world laughs with you, cry and you get salt in your champers, which we don't want. But I think we have got a lot to whinge about, starting with being the butt of God's biological joke. You think of all the things women go through, from when you're a teenager and you first get taken hostage by your hormones once a month, and then there's pregnancy where everything swells to sumo wrestler proportions, then there's childbirth where you stretch your vagina the customary, 5 kilometres? Then there's mastitis, then there's the menopause, and then just when everything goes quiet, do you know what happens? You grow a beard. How can that be fair? I could make a macrame hanging basket arrangement. Why?
Do you know something that's really cruel, Kathy? This week I had pimples on my nose and chin hairs as well. So I got the one in the scale.
Whammy,
yeah. That was so you inject so much humour into your work. How important is humour to you?
Well, first of all, women are funny. When you go on a girls' night out, don't you have to be hospitalised from hilarity? Don't you? And I think there is a difference in male-female humour. My male friends are very funny, but they have what I call the black belt and tongue fu. They'll tell a set joke. But women never tell set jokes, do we? Our humour is very cathartic, it's very confessional, it's very candid, self-deprecating, and it's hilarious. But I've been in many book tours around the world, and there will always be some male journalist who will say to me, even these days, will say to me, you say you write funny books, but women aren't that funny. And I think, why do some men say that? I think they're terrified what it is we're being funny about. I think they presume we spend the entire time talking about the length of their members, which is not true, boys, because we also talk about the width, which after childbirth is much, much more important. But I do think women use humour as a survival mechanism, because if you can laugh at something, it takes the sting out of it, doesn't it? And it's not just me imagining women are funny. Anthropologists say that women in all cultures on the planet laugh more often than men, especially in all female groups. Isn't that interesting? So I think it is just a way that we cope and survive. And so I try, if I have any gift as a writer at all, it's probably putting into words what women might be thinking, but not necessarily saying out loud, and also writing down the way women talk when there's no men around. And it's a joy to capture that on the page. Yeah. And also I think with humour, if you can disarm with charm, you're much more likely to get your feminist message across than if you're browbeating someone. So I always think if I can make people laugh, they're going to be more open to what I'm saying.
So when you moved overseas, Kathy, did that change your perspective as a writer at all? Was it easier when you went overseas, or?
I don't know, I think girl talk is the same the world over. I mean, what do women worry about? We've got, my books are, basically I write because it's cheaper than therapy. And I've cannibalized everything that's ever happened to me. And I kind of write the books, the novels, as a manual for other women coming up behind me saying, this is what it was like, this is how I survived it, and this is how you'll laugh your way through it. So, when after Puberty Blues, I tried to broaden my heterosexual horizons, moved into the centre of Sydney and started dating, guys. I mean, on so many blind dates, I should have been given a free dog. But all the men in Sydney are either married or gay, or married and gay. I don't know about Melbourne. But it was around that time that I learned the double standards about sexuality, that a man who's sexually active is a love god, a stud muffin, a spunk rat, that's what we say in the Shire, a spunk rat, a Romeo, a Lothario. But a woman with the same sexual appetites is a slut, a tart, a tramp, a mole. And that hasn't changed. Men still expect women to be so virtual. It's like when the guy says, oh darling, am I the first man to make love to you? To which the woman replies, of course, I don't know why you men keep asking the same silly question. So I wrote a book about that, Girls' Night Out, and then I lived in LA, wrote Lama Parler about being there, and about facial prejudice, the way women are judged on their looks, and I've written about marriage, I've written about divorce, I've written about raising teenage daughters, I've written about the menopause, and now I'm writing about, the second act in a woman's life.
So let's get back to the books about marriage and bringing up children. I've got a lovely picture here of you and the kids.
Great.
Put that up.
I'm loving this show and tell, aren't you? It's great. Some of she doesn't suddenly flash up one of the photos of her with her husband naked.
I don't think I'd want to give anybody that sort of fright. Okay, here we go. Kathy and the kids. This is gorgeous. I love this photo. Look at that. Just your daughter's looking up at you so adorably.
Oh, she's adorable. Yeah. Oh, well, motherhood. Well, it is. It's the most wonderful time of your life is you having your children, really, except that it's bloody exhausting. The hardest thing I would say about motherhood is when you get a teenage daughter. How many women here have raised a teenage girl? Oh my God, it's like living with the Taliban. You're not allowed to laugh, sing, dance, wear short skirts. I remember when my daughter was about 13, I was going out and I had this really beautiful little leopard skin pink mini skirt on, and I knew she wouldn't approve, so I crept down to the front door, and I opened the door, and she heard me, and these steps came running behind me, and she said, what are you wearing? Go back to your room, you're not going out dressed like that. And I remember saying, but surely my legs are okay, I can still wear a short skirt. She said, it's not the legs, Mum, the skirt doesn't go with your face. Ouch, ouch. No self-esteem is hereditary, you get it from your teenage daughters. But she's fabulous now. She's 29, believe it or not. She's a human rights lawyer and she's the most fantastic person. But if anyone here is raising a teenage daughter, I have got one fantastic survival tip for you. Next time she hits you and kicks you and says, I wish you'd just die, just take a big drag on a cigarette, a big gulp of wine and say, I'm doing my best, darling. But I think the other really hard thing about motherhood is that blokes just don't help. Not the men here, obviously you're gorgeous, love gods, or you wouldn't be in an event like this where we're having girl talk. So we adore you already. But we know that 99, even though women make up 50% of the workforce, we're still doing about 99.9% of all the housework and all the childcare, which really came into focus during lockdowns. And I think, God, working mums juggle so much, you could be in the Cirque du Soleil. And the Dunkirk evacuation would be easier to organise than a working mum getting her kids up and out of the house in the morning. And yet the men are no help. And I would always say to my husband, you've just got to help me more around the house. And he'd be like, well, I'd like to help, but I'm a man and I can't multitask. Have you heard this from the men in your life? This, girls, is a biological cop-out because no man would have any trouble multitasking at, say, an orgy. He'd have no trouble at that particular time. He'd be twinkling and twirling and all going on. And it's actually in men's interest to help us more around the house. house because I do all my research in a scientific, in-depth fashion over cocktails with girlfriends.
That sounds
And
great.
yeah, right. But what I gleaned is that a lot of my women friends were not having sex with their husbands because they were A, resentful that they were doing everything, and B, exhausted. Because if you've worked all day, come home at night, cook the dinner, defrosted the chops for tomorrow, found the lost sports kit, helped with the homework, done the washing, done the ironing, put the cat out, done the nagging about the teeth cleaning, read the bedtime stories. By the time you get into bed, the one thing you're fantasizing about is sleep. And then you get the hand. You know, men make horror movies called The Blob and The Thing. Exhausted working mothers would make the hand. And you think, here's this guy, hasn't talked to me all day or helped me around the house, and he thinks I'm in the mood for love. I'm in the mood for running him through with a carving knife. Sorry guys, we're going to have some girl talk now. But he hasn't noticed. You know, he's just prodding away at my clitoris as though it's an elevator button. He's running late for a meeting. And you're like, take the stairs. But I have got a really, really good survival tip for any woman who wants to get out of having sex with her husband. Just when you feel the prod of his member in your back, you tell him the tax department rang and want to audit his accounts. Because not only will he lose the urge for sex, but he won't be able to sleep, so no snoring either results. How are you boys going? Oh, welcome to the girls' club. What can I say?
I'm going to be breathless after that. Let's talk about the new book.
Right.
So, Till Death or a little Light Maiming, do us part.
Okay, well.
Give us an overview, mate.
Well, look, basically, for women, I think life is in two acts. Now, the trick is surviving the interval, which is the menopause, obviously, where you sweat so much it's like the Gestapo's trying to get a confession out of you. But on the other side of that, I mean, I think it's the best time of a woman's life. Because what happens to you biologically is that your estrogen goes down and your testosterone comes up a little bit. So you get a little bit more bolshy, a little bit more selfish, a little bit more like a bloke, actually. And for the first time ever in your life, you can start to put yourself first. And of course, the opposite happens to men as they age. Their testosterone goes down and their estrogen comes up. So there's a real dichotomy in what couples want as they age. Because a lot of men, when they retire, they want to stay home and sort of nest. And women are like, I've nested! You know, I've buttered 4,000 acres of toast. I've cooked 4,000 flocks of, sheep and roast salmon and schools of salmon. I want to go up Everest and I want to go down the Amazon. So the majority of divorces now are initiated by women. I don't know if you knew that. And the two peak times is when the last child finishes school, when the husband retires. And all the women I know my age, well, when I read novels about women my age, they're all lonely, living in a flat, wilting away with loneliness, and then they die of sadness and they get eaten by their cats. Right? I know no women like that. My women friends are funny, feisty, fabulous. They're swinging off a chandelier with a toy boy between their teeth. But I never see that reflected in literature. So I want to start a new genre. I mean, I kind of kick-started, I hate the term chick lit, but, Puberty Blues, Girls Night Out, they were the first books of that kind of genre. I did Mummy Lit with Fetal Attraction, Mad Cows, Nip Lit with Nip and Tuck. So now I want to get a new genre for women my age. I think I'm going to call it I Don't Give a Shit Lit. It's great, not caring anymore what anybody thinks about you. So the way this new book starts, is 60-year-old Gwen. She's a teacher. She's driving to school and she hears on the radio that a man's been taken by a great white shark, and it's where her husband swims every morning. And she races down to the beach, and it turns out it is her husband who's missing. And just when her grief's kicking in, another woman turns up on a motorbike saying that it's her husband. She's a jazz singer, Tish. And then they realise that they're married to a bigamist. And not just that, he's got all their money. So it's basically an odd couple comedy where these two women get together to track down their money around the world. I'm not going to give you any more away because there's a lot of funny twists and turns. I wanted to write a really funny book because I think after 2 years of pandemic, and now rootin' tootin' shootin' Putin with his finger on the nuclear trigger, have we ever needed a laugh more? They say laughter's the best medicine. It's about the only medicine we've got right now. So I wanted it to be really funny, but I wanted it to be a celebration of female friendship. But I also wanted to address ageism because, I think for women, we suffer from facial prejudice. We get judged on our looks in a way that men don't. A man my age is a silver fox, whereas I'm an old bag, a hag and an old chook. And you kind of get put out to sexual pasture. That makes me so crazy. So I wanted to talk about that by making these women just so much fun and so fabulous, even though they're polar opposites, and seeing if they could forge a friendship on this incredible trip they do. It also goes around the world because we couldn't do anything in the pandemic, Flights of fancy are about the only trips we can take right now. And as I have a column in the, oh, is that still on there? I have a column in a British paper, a travel column, which is called Adventure Before Dementia. Can't pay the hell out of DM. So I have been lucky enough to go to a lot of amazing places. So I used a lot of that in the book to just give you a great ride. And it's my favourite book I've written. Really, I loved writing it. It made me laugh, and I hope it makes you laugh as well. And gives you some escapism and just some comic relief and lightness in dark days.
I really loved the fact that, you did take flights of fancy in the book and it would have been a real escape for you when you were writing it during the pandemic because it goes so far and that celebration of sisterhood is amazing.
Can I say one more thing? The other thing I wanted to say in the book too is it's not bad to age. I hate the idea of anti-aging cream. It's not a bad thing to age. And without doing cosmetic surgery, because I am against cosmetic surgery. I mean, I always joke, my mother told me never to pick my nose, especially from a catalogue, But I have also lived in LA, and I've seen it go really seriously wrong. I mean, have any of you been to Los Angeles? Right, there is no law of gravity in Los Angeles. Skin sags upwards, it's incredible. And basically all they're doing, if you think about it, they're just dragging everything up. So the ankle becomes the knee becomes the navel, the clitoris becomes the chin. And that's how you spot a recipient of cosmetic surgery. Look for a woman who's rubbing that part of anatomy under the But you see terrible things there. Like most of those doctors couldn't put a dressing on a salad. I think they studied under Dr. Zeus. So you don't want to go there. But I do understand why women panic about getting older. Because, we never see women who look normal. 85% of people on Australian television over 50 are men. We just never see women who look like we do. And I also understand the anxiety because a lot of my female friends are being traded in by their husbands now for younger models, and they're doing anything they can to stay young. And I don't see them for a while, and then I suddenly see these breasts coming down the high street. They've got their own postcode, arriving about 10 minutes before she does. And then they've got that. Where it looks as though she's got a vagina sutured to her face. And that is basically collagen, where they take the fat out of their bottoms and inject it into their lips so they're literally talking out of their ass. Which explains a lot about the Kardashians, doesn't it? And then I also see them at the gym and they've waxed off all their body hair. Why? Why do they want to look like prepubescent girls? I mean, I wouldn't say this in any other context, but bring back bush, don't you think, girls? Come on. I mean, let's ask the guys. Sure, you enjoy a little bit of like bushwalking, don't you? There's a guy up there I've got my eye on. I think he likes a little bit of bush tucker.
Kathy, you're definitely one of those women that other women would just say, I would so like to hang out with her. I have a photo again, right? You and your friends.
I'm loving this slideshow.
Oh, come on.
That you brought up thing.
There we go.
right. That's Jean Kitson. They're mainly all cabaret singers, although that's the wonderful writer, Tara, yeah. Oh gosh, I haven't seen that for years. Amanda Palmer? Oh yeah, that was a great night, now I remember it. Yeah. Oh,
I think I'm dead on.
Yes, I am.
This microphone's dying.
well, the night is yet young, we can all go to Girls' Night Out tonight. You know, I have to say, I think Australian women are the world's best kept secret. Funny, frank, feisty, loyal, loving, just the best. You know, we really do have a lovely camaraderie, and I've never found that with women anywhere else in the world to such an extent. Yeah, so we're lucky to have each other.
I wanted to hear about your latest, can you hear me?
Yes.
Your latest trip to
To the Savoy and a certain Welsh singer. Tell us about it.
okay.
Well, when you come to London, what's that? Just sitting on your mind.
That's caught
I wasn't sure which part of your anatomy was
No,
challenged.
it wasn't me, it was over there. Go ahead, Kathy.
Well, as you mentioned in your intro, I was writer in residence at the Savoy Hotel, which was pretty fabulous. And I have got my own cocktail. We put a lot of research into that drink, I'm telling you. But if ever you're in London, come to the Savoy. I'm in the Beaufort Bar, and I will pour champagne down your neck. I've got my own table there, and I'd love to see you. But that's where I take my English girl, my British friends. Do you guys know who Sandy Toksvig is?
Yes.
She hosts QI, you know, Danish Delight. She's hilarious. Do you know who Ruby Wax is?
Yeah.
And Joe Brand?
Oh,
Yeah. So we've got a gaggle of girlfriends, Jennifer Saunders and Dawn French and everyone. And when we're in London together, we go to the Savoy and we drink there. And then one night we were drinking my cocktail, Kathy Cassis's, and Tom Jones walked in because it's his favourite bar. And we were drunk enough to think it might be quite funny to throw our underpants at him. But the only bad thing is, as I won't tell you which girl got her pants off first, just in case it ends up in the papers. But as these pants arced across the bar, I realised that they weren't a little lacy G-string. They were huge. They were like the spinnaker of a yacht. And suddenly Tom Jones is asphyxiating and can't breathe. He's like, oh, they've got the defibrillators out. And anyway, he turned around looking quite cross, and then he saw it was us, and he came over and sang us What's New Pussycat, so that was quite nice. So yeah, that was a great memory. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Kathy. I just wanted you to share that with everybody. You also tackle things in the book that are really topical, such as women being scammed as well, which is really happening a lot.
Yes, last year Australians lost 200 million to online scammers. The majority of those were romantic scammers. Yes, that's so prevalent now, and especially during the pandemic, when there was a reason these men couldn't meet you because of lockdown. So they those con artists excel, and they're very good at what they do. So that issue does come up in the book, and yeah, what can I say? Never anyone who tells you he's with the SAS or that he needs money for an operation, call the police. So the book does address that, and of course there've been a few shows. Tim the Swindler, I don't know if you watched that, Dirty John, that touched on it. Yeah. So but in my novel, the women come out on top. So don't worry, there is revenge.
So I also hear, Kathy, that you're an autodidact, which I had to look up the meaning of.
Autodidact, it means self-taught. It's a word I taught myself. Yeah, I did leave school at 16. I always joke that the only examination I've ever passed is my cervical smear test. But the good thing is that I get honorary doctorates now. I've got 3 so far, which is fantastic because you don't do any work and you get all the robes. And when the first university rang me up to ask me my head measurement for the academic hat, I was like, well, it was much smaller before you asked me that question. And when I got my first honorary doctorate hat, I just was welded to my cranium. I just didn't take it off. I wore it in the shower, I wore it surfing. My sisters had to have an intervention to get it removed. So yeah, so it's a real thrill to get those honorary doctorates. Because I should have stayed at school. My mother's a teacher. She's never got over the fact that I jumped ship.
I think there's some fabulous, successful people out there who never did that whole uni thing, and I think you definitely have proven that.
And I did teach student before I was, well, you mentioned earlier. You know what the word was? Misogynist. Not misogynist. Misogynist is an allergy to marriage. And he didn't believe me, but I got the Webster's Dictionary down, and I was like, wow! It's great.
Well, I have an honorary title for you this evening, Kathy. I'm going to give you an honorary librarian title for this evening. And it is an honour, I must say, because librarians rock.
They do rock,
And our organisation, all the staff voted on sets of values, and one of those values is humour. And we have badges with our values on, and I have my badge here, and I would like to give that to you.
Oh, what an honour! Thank you. Oh, that's just, I'm going to wear that with pride.
You're welcome. And I would like to say that I am a proud 50-year-old Irish dancing, champagne sipping librarian. Is there any opportunity there in your next novel to bust the stereotype?
Well, I would like to accept that challenge immediately. I can't think of a better character to write than put you on the page. Look at the shoes, fantastic. See, I think you always wear great shoes because if you put your foot in your mouth as often as I do, it's got to be well shod. But this is what I'd like to invent. Why can't they invent a shoe that's flat all day, and then when you get where you want to go, the heel goes up? I've got a name for it, the social climber. Why can't they do that?
Yeah, better patent that, I think.
Yeah.
Paint leather it.
Well, I'd like to open up the questions to our audience now. We do have staff, but while they are extremely fit, they are not going to run up and down the steps. So if you put your hand up, I can I can get the question from you. If people can't hear, if they're down here and they're up there and they can't hear, I can repeat the question. So has anybody got any questions for Kathy?
I hate this bit.
Putting you on the spot.
It's a man.
Oh yes, yes.
He wants to know what kind of whipped cream we're going to cover him with.
Kathy, when you wrote Puberty Blues, you co-wrote it.
Yeah.
You've been writing books on your own since. What's the difference between co-writing and writing on your own? Do you have a particular way you've worked as a 16-year-old at writing the book as compared to a young 30-year-old at writing the current?
Oh, gosh. I don't know what to say. All I can remember about writing that book is it's great to do it with a friend, of course, because Gabs was my human wonder bra at the time. But I can remember what I was reading, because I left school young. Libraries were my education. So I learned to write by reading. And so I would just hoover the oeuvre of various authors. At the time I was reading Hemingway, and I read all of his books. And I can see that I was reading Hemingway when I look at Puberty Blues, because it's so spare. There's hardly any adjectives, hardly any adverbs. It's just very, very lean and raw. And I know that he was influencing me at the time. But I think that's why it's lasted so the test of time, because anyone can read it. It's not a difficult read, or it is in some ways. It's challenging, from a sociological point of view. But it's very accessible. Because I was amazed when the TV series came out. I thought the main viewers of that would be women my age, or people my age remembering what it was like a home movie. Or maybe our parents' generation going, what were they getting up to? But it was, the main demographic were teenagers. Because all those topics, pregnancy, school, peer pressure, parental, getting on with your parents, when to have sex, when to drink, when should you drink, all those issues are still as relevant now, and it's still the best. It still addresses those issues with the most honesty. I think there's been a book since then that's done that with that same clarity and that same raw honesty. So yeah, I'm very proud of it. I mean, it's as I said earlier, it punches above its weight. Yeah.
Anybody else got any questions? Yes.
I have read your book, the last book. In fact, I read it in a day.
Oh, what a compliment! Thank you. Oh, what just read this one?
I bought it yesterday.
Oh, fantastic! That's incredible.
So, well, when I say a day, I mean a night and a day.
I want to get your quote on the cover.
Mainly because I just wanted to finish it and just roll with it. But I was really very impressed with your metaphors.
Oh, I do love a metaphor.
You do like a metaphor, and I just wondered, do you really work at that, or do they flow?
Right. Oh, that's a really lovely question. I do love a metaphor. I like when you can hold a phrase up to the light and just look at it glistening. That's a good turn of phrase. It's a good way of putting it.
Yes, but there's a lot of great adjectives in there, and
thank
then
you.
I had to go to the dictionary for 2 words.
What were they?
Is it pulchritudinous?
Pulchritude. Yeah.
Describing a kiwi.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, what's this? But it really means beautiful.
It does, yeah.
And then susurrus.
A susurrus. It's the sound of the
rustling of
the leaves. Yeah, it's a beautiful word. Yeah.
And they're lovely words, and so I learned a lot from that.
Oh, no, thank you. Oh, well, yeah, I do love a metaphor. I think my love of language came from, and my way I've honed my use of language, came from the fact that as a surfy girl, getting back to Doobie Blues, the surfy girls I grew up with were so beautiful. The blonde hair, the blue eyes, and they were tall and slim and stunning, and their bra cups, runneth over with love. And I'm a bonsai brunette whose bra cups do not runneth over. And I think the only way I could get noticed by the guys was to develop what I would call quiplash, to say something funny, So I was sort of like, notice me. So really, my love of language is just because I really wanted to get laid. Otherwise, the Pope would be ringing me up for tips on celibacy. And actually, all women, it's interesting, we use in everyday language, women use on average about 350, 400 more words. So it is a skill that we have. And I always, when I do talks in schools to encourage girls to go forth and be fabulous, I always say you're underdressed if you go out at night without a couple of one-liners tucked up your trouser leg. Because if a guy is putting you down or belittling you in any way, if you can just fire off a fabulous one-liner and give him a bit of a tongue lashing and make people laugh at him, you completely take away his power. So it is a skill we should hone, that women are more verbally dexterous. Yeah.
Mine's more a statement. I went to a private girls' school, and your book, Puberty Blues, was banned from the library. Times have changed.
I'm quite proud of that. How times have changed, exactly, for the better. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. Any other little questions? Yes.
Are you finding it different to write at the moment with cancel culture, sort of the forefront of publishing?
The question is it difficult to write now because of cancel culture being in the forefront of everything? Look, my daughter is very woke. I sometimes wish the woke would take a little nap. But I do totally admire the fact that they call out sexism and they call out racism. And there's a lot we need to fix in society. But I just wish sometimes we could do it with a little bit more humour. That's the only thing.
Is there pressure on you as a writer to change the way you write these days?
Is there pressure on me as a writer? Well, luckily I think with humour you can kind of get away with a lot more. But yeah, there will. I think the pressure's going to increase to dip yourself in disinfectant. But I don't think I ever will. No. It's not my style. But yeah. But then again, you know, we were talking about the young calling out, with the woke culture, calling out sexism and racism. And I really admire younger women now. Look at Grace Tame and the fact that they just stand up and they speak their piece and they're not afraid and they won't tolerate any sexism. And I don't know about you guys, you girls, but when I was young, you know, sexism was rife, and we kind of put up with a lot more than we should have. I mean, I remember going for I went for a job interview at Channel, can I say the channel? Yeah, no, I better not. I went to a job interview, and I was about 21, I already had a book out, Puberty Blues was out, already had a column in the newspaper, so I wasn't green. This was my job interview. All these famous men, you would know their names if I said them, but I better be a bit careful. Someone's probably you're recording this? Yeah. Anyway, all these big famous men you would know, 5 men were sitting there, and I'm opposite them, I'm 21, and one of them slapped $10 on the table and said, I bet I can make your tits move without touching them. And I just went, oh yeah, whatever, you know. So he leant over, balled my breasts, and gave me the $10. So I said, I bet you $20 I can make your balls move without touching them. Kicked him between the legs. and I got the job. But today you have a sexual harassment suit, but then we just had to wear it. You know, you had to put your bulletproof bra on and just go out there and cope with that kind of misogyny every single day. And it still exists. I think that, the Harvey Weinstein, those top order predators, they've crawled under the rock, but they're still there. Look at Canberra, look at Scott Morrison and co. I mean, unbelievable. So they prove that dinosaurs still roam the earth, yeah. So let's have a scomoectomy.
The gentleman over here from Robinson's would like to ask you.
I just really want to know what's in your cocktail.
A very good question. What's in my cocktail? It's champagne, cassis, strawberries, lemon juice, and just a tiny bit of sugar around the top. It's delicious. Do you guys know who Julian Barnes is? Julian Barnes, the author? Yes, he wrote Flaubert's Parrot. You, the English people here will know. You know him, don't you? He's about to come on book tour, I think. Yeah, Karen's saying. Anyway, he's a very, very famous, very proper, pinstriped, underpanted English author. And he was with me at the Savoy one day. He's very lovely, he's charming. And we were there one day and we were drinking Kathy Cassis, and I said, I'm really glad I've got a cocktail named after me, but I'm slightly worried about all the men who can go around town now saying that they've had me. And Julian said, don't worry, Kathy darling, as long as they say you went down rather well. For an English guy, that was pretty risque.
Is there anybody else who has any questions before we do the door prize? Yes, up the top.
I'm just wondering, Kathy, about your thoughts with the Chris Rock situation, being a comedian, and Will Smith, defending his wife. What would you say around that?
Well, it definitely gave a new meaning to the word punchline. I would also say, does the world need any more male violence right now? I thought it was pathetic. And also, his wife, can she not stick up for herself? I thought it was really embarrassing and horrific. And also, it reminded me, I don't know about the rest of you, it reminded me of a man, a domestic, someone who beats his wife. That they get really aggressive and then they cry and oh, poor me. I mean, I don't know if that resonated with you, but that's how I saw it. I think they should just take that Oscar away from him. I thought it was appalling. And Chris wasn't the best joke in the world, but he's a comedian. So did you all feel like that too? Did you feel? Yeah, it's really divided. Very charged. You couldn't imagine, Clark Gable and Jimmy Stewart and all those wonderful guys behaving like that, could you? No.
What did Chris Rock actually say? Because I didn't catch exactly what he said. I know what he was referring to, but I didn't hear.
He just made a joke about G.I. Jane. G.I. Jane, because her hair, she's got alopecia. And so her hair, she shaves her head.
Yeah.
And he just made it, wasn't even, he said, next G.I. Jane?
Oh, something like that.
It was nothing. And Will Smith laughed, and then
He did.
and then he kind of
looked at
flipped.
her.
I found it really aggressive and kind of scary. So you would not want to be in a room with that guy.
Kathy, did you know that they reported that he had also made that joke many years ago about a guy who was at the awards who shaved his head, and he did the whole joke when he was just young on this guy shaving his head and being sort of a chrome dome type thing. Yeah. So they're going, and what's the difference? You made this joke and yet you can't take the other side of it.
It was not an edifying moment. But you know how sometimes they have a guest edit of a magazine and they get someone in just for that month? I think it's time they had a guest edit of the Globe where the women just say to the men, look, don't play golf, go fishing. Just let women run the world just for 6 months. We can't do a worse job than the men. And just see how we go.
How long do you think it will take, perhaps my grandchildren's era, where we have equality?
Right. The question is, how long will it take before we have equality? Will it be, what's your name?
Jane.
Will it be Jane's grandchildren's era? Well, as a feminist, and I despair that I've been saying the same thing since Puberty Blues days, and nothing much has really, really changed. And I don't think it will change until men join us at the barricades. And if I were a man, I'd be so embarrassed that Australian women don't have equal pay. I'd be mortified. I'd be out there campaigning for that every single day. And obviously the men here today are all enlightened, and they'll be at the barricades next time we're there. And I'd just like to say to you, it's not as though women are asking for that much. What do we want? Equal pay? That'd be great. Respect. We'd like men to work out that Mutual Orgasm is not an insurance company. That'd be good. We'd like them to communicate with us, because sometimes I feel like my small intestine is communicating with me more often than my partner. We'd like them to do a little light housework, which is also in their interests, because it's scientifically proven that no woman ever shot her husband while he was vacuuming. And we'd like them to do the odd sensitive thing with snow peas in the kitchen, because the way to a woman's heart is through her stomach. That is not aiming too high. What does a woman really want in bed? Breakfast. And a really good book, right? Yeah. I don't think that's asking for a lot, do you? No.
Signing. So we've done the door prize, and now we'll go to the book signing, and that's it.
I just noticed you've got How to Kill Your Husband of a Handy Household Hints, a very good Mother's Day present. But I wanted to thank you all for coming out in these COVID crazy times and having a bit of girl talk with me. It's lovely to meet you. I love being in Melbourne. I mean, sunshine. I can take my wetsuit off for the first time in a few months. And it's really lovely to meet you all, and I can't wait to have the chat by the table. So thanks for coming. And guys, well done! Well done!